It's Lee Mitchell live on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm joined by the incredible Sarah Valentine. Sarah is the Be Happy HR talent dynamo on our team. Bill is our wonderful mentor women in biz and also our facilitator club. These are incredible ladies. You follow them on social media as well as LinkedIn. So if you're not connected with these two ladies, please do them because they are in. And yeah, we're ready to talk about a really important is near and dear to my diverse. So I'm now. So I'm going to the other ladies and talk about what diversity and inclusion means to you.
I will let you go first, Sarah, as I'm going to check on my puppy that I hear nibbling on something in the corner, and I'll be right back. So go ahead, Sarah.
In terms of what diversity and inclusion means to me, and it's working from home, not being in the physical office anymore, in the background, checking on puppies and things like that. So inclusion is realizing that people, especially when they're working from home, when they're working with a business or a temporary thing, is that, you know, our personal lives meld in a lot more. And so when you're on calls, you're going to have, you know, when it's not chewing on something that they shouldn't be chewing on, or the kids aren't having a fight in the background. So yeah, I think that's kind of where we're at, right? Just to have an employee base that's diverse and including everybody's different ideas. Everybody brings their own, can just make the workplace that much better, that much more collaborative. And then inclusive is just list of whether we're an entry level worker or all the way up to the C-suite level, you know, and if we all believe in the same mission and vision for the company, and we can work together for that common goal. So to me, that's what that means. Mute.
Sorry, he was eating a box of Kleenexes. Yeah, I realized that. He was eating a box of Kleenexes. I think he's doing something better now. But yeah, I loved that answer. For me, with my background, whenever I hear diversity inclusion, my brain always goes to immediately to those with disabilities. I worked within the disability sport world for those with physical disabilities for a number of years. And so accessibility has been a big term. And that's where my initial just sort of tendency always goes to, but of course it's bigger, it's diverse, it's everybody. And I think one of the key things for me, when people talk about hiring and having a workplace that is diverse and inclusive, it's that it's not just this sense of like, we're going to check the boxes and make sure the numbers are, you know, diverse and everything. It's not just about sort of a tolerating or meeting a quota. It's about fostering a diverse and inclusive environment and workspace, one that celebrates differences, makes a point to make sure people really do feel included, not just by being at the table, but by also ensuring that the voice is heard at the table. Because I think that's a big difference. There's often these, movements and people are physically there, but their voices still aren't heard, or those kind of, that kind of tokenism rather than true, genuine, actual movement towards real inclusion, celebration, fostering of the different voices, perspectives, and everything like that. So I think that's where I come from it. It's taking that next step. It's really creating a space where differences and diversity are celebrated, where physical space is actually accessible for all, where attitudes, it's not just even a physical environment, the attitudes are accessible and welcoming. That's kind of the dream, I believe, for any organization to just have practices and policies, but for it to actually be taking place, rather than sort of like, oh, we've got a policy on it in an HR folder, but for it to actually be the way and the culture of a organization.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I see
and I
Lee
think
is joining us.
yeah, she's coming on. So hopefully our internet works well one day. And then of course the day you want to do like a live stream. Let's see what we can throw your way to throw a curve.
I'm going to keep my camera off just because my Wi-Fi connection is really terrible. Yeah, these are the challenges of working from your cottage. But we're keep on trucking because that's what we do. We don't give up. So, what leaders and HR professionals are looking to more diverse, because that's like it's like a complex challenge in that you don't know where. What are those that really want to talent, but they just don't know where?
I didn't hear it all that you put, Lee. So that only goes to me, and we.
Okay, and you know what? I heard the
I caught pieces of. Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay, I heard the question, and I can just sort of. So the question she was asking is how can companies ensure that they are hiring diversely? Like, what can they do? What are the ways? Because I think that's sort of the whole, like, the start. They just don't know how to do it potentially. So what are some tips for those hiring to make sure that they are reaching a diverse audience?
All kind of goes back to what you were saying before, Jill, is right now, especially in employers, and we want to have a more diverse and inclusive workforce. It's not just about saying, okay, we know we need to have whatever that looks like. So people with disabilities, people of color, we have to have more of those types of people in our workforce. And it goes to that whole, well, you're doing it just to tick a box. It's not about that, and genuinely put that into our organizations to make sure our way to employers is kind of, take an inward look now. What are your hiring practices right now? Is it possible, and practices are intended to have unconscious bias in there. And sometimes it just biases in your hiring practices right now. Really do, and are there possible ways that you can make those smaller? Is kind of that first step to doing it and looking at your hiring process, that diversity inclusion within your own hiring process, and then also look at the whole process look like. Are you making sure that it's inclusive of every? You probably don't have an intention to create situations where over the years this is just kind of what's happened. But if you can take a step back and reflect and look where we are now, but this is where we want to go. How can we get there? What do we need to change? Like I said, it's not about kind of like ticking that box anymore. It's more than that. It's more than just kind of to say, you know, we value diversity and inclusion, and we have it as part of our hiring process now. And what I've seen as an HR professional, as I'm talking about more of, you need to actually have action. You can't just tick that box anymore. Actually do the work. And it's something that's going to happen overnight, but it definitely, you know, start with it and then, you know, kind of keep going. That'll turn into the longer term change.
And I was going to add, because I would imagine if you are hiring an HR firm to support you, or where are you posting your job postings, I would imagine, and that's probably why you guys created, you know, your new organization, is, you know, where are the places that you can, instead of the usual, like, I don't even know what's out there, the usual places, are there special? Because I know that there's, you know, potentially organizations who probably have, you know, job postings and, you know, for people with disabilities, for example, there may be an organization that helps people with disabilities to secure jobs. So keeping them on your list of where you're job posting, going through organizations like yours that are actually focused on this. So I would think that for sure would be something to be mindful of, sort of looking at who you are using in terms of posting, and if you have an HR organization working for you, what their practices and policies are around ensuring diverse candidates and that kind of stuff. So, and that's why I love what you guys are doing, because I think it's so important. Something I was going to also mention is there's that idea of universal design, where you create something that's accessible and inclusive of everyone to start with. So it's not always like this, like ad hoc, you know, someone comes in and has some sort of, you know, diverse need or whatever, and then it's like this afterthought, but literally kind of creating, for example, if you just automatically create forms that have the selection of people's pronouns, and adding, you know, things like when asking for, you know, someone's sex or something like that, already including all of the options right from the get-go, instead of someone applying and going, oh, we don't have that, and, you know, oh my goodness, we need to be reactive, is really trying to look, I would imagine, at sort of all your practices in a really universal way, and creating it so that no matter who comes from what background, whatever, that they feel that the whole process just was seamless for them and was really welcoming and inclusive from the get-go. So that idea of universal design, I think, is really key in matters like this as well.
I love what you're saying here, Jill, because, you know, I think, yeah, it's all about the delivery in we interact with our right? So also things like making sure that, if someone's hearing impaired or visually impaired, that we have, we're thinking about that universal design, like you're going to, Jill. Because you have such a great background in disability, what have you come in terms of doing in your industry to create more inclusive environment? Want to?
Well, I mean, like you said, even just physical accessibility is huge. It's why a lot of the airport, like for people that don't really understand exactly what universal design is, it's that idea that, you go to an airport now and the washrooms don't have doors, right? Like you kind of go into the men's or women's and then the stalls are all in there, but you don't have all of these initial barriers. It's just this easy, and that's whether you're, using a chair, like a wheelchair user, or maybe it's a mom with a stroller. It's just making this design so that anyone, it's lower counters, so that if someone is, coming in a wheelchair, that the counters in somewhere. Bloorview Holland, Holland Bloorview, which is an incredible rehabilitation hospital for children, did this universal design, and it's just, you walk into that space and it's so incredible. And so for me, that's the kind of approach that I try to take, within our business, where everything from trying to make sure that photos and, when someone comes to your website, that it is already visually accessible. I try to make sure that my hashtags are capitalized, each word, so that if someone is listening to it, it actually says the words instead of just a long rambling kind of mumble of things. And it's these like small things that can help someone that comes across, your website, your business, just feel like, oh, I see myself there. That's, wow, this is a group or a company that's already open, having pictures of staff members that are diverse on your website. Like it's these small things that are sometimes overlooked, but when someone, logs on and everything about your company is, literally like a very specific person that's just not them in everything they see, they're just going to be like, I don't think that's going to be an environment, one, that I potentially want to engage with as a customer, but two, that's probably going to welcome me because I'm different. So ensuring that just visually, we are also making sure that people are feeling welcome from the get-go, from that very first contact with us as an organization.
Yeah, I love that concept. Right? You do have to see it to believe people, not images of people. Like show your talent, diverse talent, acting within your community and your team. I think that's an important point making, Jill. Being in where you've been interviewed by a company and just felt really uncomfortable because you feel like there wasn't a sense of belonging. Like, have you ever experienced that, either one of you?
I think my worst HR experience, I was interviewed and they didn't believe that I had created the document that I had written. And I think it's because I was quite young. But I had experience in fundraising, and it was for a fundraising position. And one of the requests was to submit like an ask letter, like that you would send out, saying like, please donate to us and whatever. And so I created one and sent it in, and the woman legit was like, so like this probably came from one of your past employers. Like, we would love for you to go into a room and rewrite another letter. And I was just just kind of blown away. And I
Wow.
knew, I often don't experience, much discrimination or anything like that. But I did feel it was that like I was just super young, and they were just, and it was such an awkward thing. I just was like, wow, that sort of mistrusting right from the get-go. I realize it now. I actually did end up taking the job because it was my first event coordinating job, and I was just so excited to get it. And it ended up being a very toxic workplace, ultimately with a very toxic boss. She even asked if I had siblings and how old they were. And again, I realized later it was to try to figure out like what my age was and things like that. Definitely some HR no-nos. But yeah, that would be one of those situations where that mistrust, it just created this really awkward. I was young, took the job, but I now would see that that would be a huge sort of red flag right away, to have that kind of mistrust, awkwardness within an interview. So that was my experience.
That story, it reminds me that I had a similar experience where, you know, and it was government, so that's the scary part. You think that they would know better. I doing the position as an intern and got an honorarium, applied for the position that I was doing, and didn't get an interview because we're a senior citizens home, and they were like, well, you look too young, no one's going to take you serious. And my challenges here too. So, you know, I remember being so good, and it the whole trajectory because no one's going to take me serious. Yeah, Sarah, have you had any experiences where maybe it be ageism, or just where you felt you faced some sort of discrimination in interview process? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, that's right. I am on mute. Mine was direct discrimination. But what I found, this was many, many years ago, stages of my HR career. And I was looking for a job. I had to talk about starting a family. So I was probably in my early 30s at that. And you know, I didn't end up getting the jobs that I wanted to. And at the time I had like my wedding rings on my finger. I don't know if you can see it in the video. So I came in and they were gone. I didn't put them on my finger at all. Further in the interview process, I kind of got that second interview and then the final interview. Hired at that company. I don't know for sure, but to me, it was very odd. Then I was more interested in, and maybe it was because they saw a point in my personal life where I might wanted to have a family. But I think back at it, you know, it obviously wasn't right, but smaller, subtle things that you can experience, you know, minorities. And I think what I find really helpful now is that we're much more at that time. And, you know, this was probably like 10, 12 years ago when it happened to me. But I think I'm more aware of it. And that's why at the beginning, when you asked for tips, you know, a lot of it is, you know, there are things that we do inadvertently that maybe we don't know about. And part of that employees. And the other thing, like Jill was talking to, you know, about, you know, have a multi-pronged approach, especially if your target is figure out where those particular job seekers are searching. And you're going to have to get creative on your Indeeds or your LinkedIn. You might have to go out into the local community and see if you can tap into a talent pool that way. So you're going to have to get creative, project your image as that, diverse employer, photos or anything. Put up your actual workforce. It's especially with tech, shoot videos on your phone and just put really candid, genuine, ask them, like, what is it like to work here? Why have you stayed here this long? What was the hiring? And put it up on your career page on your company's website, because especially the younger generation, they will do research into a company before they even use career page. Fingers crossed you have one. If you don't have one, you can find the services we offer. We can help you with that. Or they're going to go to other places like what is your company do? What is it like to work for your company through this whole process? So it is a lot. It's inundating, but it does need to be done if you want to take your company to that next level, especially if you're
Awesome. And is that, I'm just curious, so is that, I was just going to say, is that some of the practices that you guys are implementing sort of at Be Happy HR, like looking and reaching out into those communities that are actually representative of the diversity that ultimately people are going to want? I mean, I only say that, I'm like, we're sitting here like three white women, you know what I mean? And I assume that within your company, that you are connecting with the, and doing all of that active work with people of the diverse backgrounds and everything like that, which I think is so amazing. I mean, that's why I love what you guys are doing. Because as I look here, I'm like, we don't have anyone diverse, on this panel even speaking about it. But I know that you guys are kind of doing that all in the background with your organization. Anyways, I love what you guys are doing. Sorry, Lee, I think I cut you off.
No, that's okay. No, I love that you're bringing up. We call it our diverse dream team. Like, have a hive of individuals that are a part. So we have like a career coach, Ian Cooper, who is Black, who is a part of the organization. We totally understand to connect with organizations that are supporting these communities. So right in the process of putting together a outreach campaign, 60 women to apply for positions, and helping them to really get strategic on their job search results and what they need to do to streamlined sort of thing. So the talent is, and support those that run into our bias and challenges there. So we're putting together a group of individual associations that want to really excited about the start of that. Diversity is not only all those things, right? So we want to together, stakeholders that have that in these areas. So really important question. This is this wonderful thing bring here, and we bring to on our team different backgrounds. You know, show that we're, you know, you know, because we all I have mental health challenges. I like to speak to. So, you know, we're all creating people that have stories and challenges to support others. And what we do is really on in ways that maybe our organizations are focused on the client, like we help level up our bits as well. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I assumed you were doing all the things. I just thought I'd mention and kind of, you know, bring it up here so anyone listening could really understand what you guys are doing and everything, because it's obviously so needed and such an incredible thing that you guys are offering with your company.
Well, thank you. And travel is we broaden our understanding of the world. So, you know, perhaps there's ways in which organizations that are looking to broaden their world experience through travel, that could then bring more understanding and less unconscious bias, and more opportunities for employees to work together as a team to understand some of you know, I think now we're a lot of community groups that are speaking out. So what can travel do to help teams together and more diverse understanding?
Well, I think one of the things that I've seen when we do take groups abroad in our program is it kind of, I want to say, it eliminates any hierarchies and things that kind of pre-exist. So you know, I love that you asked this, because we are looking to get more into the B2B space and, you know, help organizations with team building, leadership, creating social impact, all of those kind of great things through our You Go Travel for Change programs. And one of the things I've seen in the volunteering I've done, either both locally and internationally, is when you kind of take, especially people from corporate world, and you suddenly do a physical build. You know, the CEO who usually, you know, rules the roost is now potentially not the handiest person. And, you know, somebody else who, you know, from the organization steps in as a leader and gets to show their leadership skills. And it kind of really, I don't want to say messes, but just sort of rearranges often a lot of that sort of hierarchy that can exist socially. And that's a beautiful thing. For people to sort of see themselves outside of the workplace is one of the greatest things. When you take a group abroad, especially a group of employees that work together, when you take them off site and do something totally not work related, you know, and that's one of the great things you can do by volunteering as a company, an organization, a department, whether it's you know, in your own community or internationally. It really just shakes things up. People see people differently. There's a different chance for bonding in a really personal way. And I think trust building is huge. Obviously, trust and communication in an organization is amazing. And so to be able to build trust through, you know, what you're doing, this shared experience that can sometimes be really difficult. You know, when we climb Kilimanjaro in our Courage Community Kilimanjaro program, that's just one of those kind of opportunities where, again, some of the people that are usually strong and leaders are the ones that are struggling, and vice versa. And so I'm super excited about the opportunity to take some corporate groups abroad and have them challenge themselves in that really physical, out of their comfort zone kind of way, to see, their team supporting one another. It's so beautiful, because often you do get into those like competitive, you're both competing for jobs, there's mistrust because you see each other as threats rather than as a team trying to work on something together. And when you get away and you're trying to conquer a mountain together, my goodness, teamwork has to happen. And it's this great opportunity to sort of restructure some of the relationships that might already exist and everything. I mean, there's so much. And even just going and seeing some of the suffering that's happening in the world and how other people live and the changing perspectives. So many people will go back and have that deep sense of gratitude for what they have. People that might have been miserable in their job might be just so happy to have a job. There's a lot, so much can happen through travel. It's a chance to get away. You start realizing some of the things that seem like such big, crazy issues. And oh my gosh, this deadline. You go away and you interact with other cultures that just perceive things differently and have different values. And there can be such a shift in what you realize is important, or, it makes you maybe second guess and reconsider your priorities in life, and maybe what you need to be focusing on more. There's so much that can happen in travel. And I'm super excited about getting more into the B2B space with our programming. So yeah, Sarah, do you have anything you wanted to jump in or share on that front?
Yeah. A couple of things. I mean, I already has other things to do, but I wanted to kind of piggyback off of what and I think when you think about this whole idea of trying to figure out your company's it is getting outside of your comfort zone, and to do any, or to take your business or your own personal life or professional life to that next. In order to get there, you're going to have to do things that you've never done before, and a lot of those comfort zone. And I'm a big believer, the only way you're going to grow zone, because our comfort zone, it's easy to stay there. It's comfortable. We know it, but when you do step outside of your comfort zone, yeah, it is super uncomfortable, as a person, as a worker, as kind of think of it from that perspective and start to take on that mindset. Those are the ones that are, to do something like that as a company, to do that volunteer, that much more teamwork than ever before. And you get to see yours outside of the workplace. You actually get to see who they are as a person. So your relationships. So we had a question come in. Lee said that she's having here. And I'm most likely going to pronounce your name. So I had asked, how do you handle cultural and diversity misunderstandings, challenges, and you create an environment in which team members welcome? That is a great question. And you're absolutely right. It is one of the biggest, and that's something that it challenge overnight. You're going to really have to do some work, is really, doing a lot of like inner reflection as an organization. Look in having those misunderstandings, like where is you may have to look at, what are your communication, what is your communication? There, this culture where if people feel like if they don't give that they're gonna, be reprimanded for it or held it against them. The culture, regardless of whether or not you intend it to be that culture, or that if that it could be a big culture change. But if you have to look inwards and see kind of what is that root problem, and some of be looking at a possible culture change where team members, where that feedback is welcomed. It start at the top with the CEO, business owner, whatever that looks like, and it has to start at the top in leader, business owner, CEO. You are going to have to walk the walk, sees that, and you welcome the feedback. Then that's just going to start the ball. And it could be, maybe you set up, employees where, you give them an opportunity to give honest feedback. What do you think? Sorry, I'm just going to pop off 1 second. I have to plug in my, so it's, oh yeah. That's my son. See, there you go. Our new work. But yeah, that's it. Again, it's something that, it's hard work. You're truly, truly want to get it done, then, take the members of your current workforce, especially people of color, different ethnic backgrounds, and get their feedback and give you that feedback, take it seriously and start to make those actions. Actions are need to be done. Is there some sort of training that we can give our employees? I myself, in the last year, I have learned so much that I was never exposed to it. For me, as I learn, that means I grow. Tangible things, but hopefully it gives you some things to kind of think about.
I love what you shared, Sarah. And if I can just piggyback on that, I think one of the things that can often be lacking in organizations is that personal. It's like almost the empathy. It's like there can be so focused on the work and the work, like that, and that's where the conflict can come up. But you kind of forget that there is a person behind the work, a person caring about their job, a person concerned, about whatever might happen. And so I think one of the great things, and it might take a little bit of investment, a little bit of time, and a lot of trust, is sometimes having those opportunities for vulnerable sharing of employees with each other, where like if you could do a values, you do a values assessment. What's everyone's personal values? Maybe bring in a coach or somebody that could help that, and then have everyone share what the values are, and maybe have a, go into, and how do you think your culture and your upbringing, your background might play into your values? And it could be this beautiful place where people start sharing and understanding. And, those people that might have, for example, my cousins had, are Chinese, and had parents who were extremely strict, extremely disciplined, had high, crazy expectations for them. And I know that that's carried, through them, and probably how they show up in the workplace and stuff. And so I think having those kind of understandings of who people are as individuals, what their dreams are, their hopes are, their fears, that kind of stuff, really knowing each other as individuals can kind of help get over some of those misunderstandings that come up, you know, because people might just have different values, and that's where the conflict is. Or people might be striving for things out of like a desperation or a need, like I really need this raise in my salary, and that's why I'm working so late at night and all of that. And having someone go, oh, I get it. You have a new kid on the way. That's why maybe you're so super stressed out right now and being a little bit short with me. The minute you understand where someone is coming from and maybe why they're acting a certain way can dispel so much of that tension and potential animosity. So that would be one of my recommendations is, like we said, those fireside chats, chances for more intimacy and growth and connection, like real connection and understanding amongst employees, I think is one of the ways to really see someone as a person and not just as a competitive coworker. Yeah, that would be just something as a coach, I kind of could see really being of benefit as well in that particular kind of situation.
Yeah.
Well, Jill, those are Sarah.
And the one thing, like, and sorry to cut you off, Lee, is I think the business leaders, you know, because we work remotely and it went a lot longer than we initially anticipated, a lot of those truly seeing the employees for who they are as people, and they're seeing the office and they're getting that more intimate look, and they're actually more appreciative. So I think kind of the next thing that you should do as kind of the business leaders is try for me and my business and why my business is so successful. How can I, this is a whole other topic in and of itself. There's so many different ways that you can do it. And it doesn't have to be so many creative ideas that you can think of. But yeah, even though, you know, everyone's going through many different situations, that there are some good things that have been coming out of this.
Absolutely.
And I always like this to happen.
Love that.
Yeah, that's a really important part of, you know, there is you need positivity now, right? It can't all be doom and gloom. We need to look at the, so to speak, and remote, you know, they're talking about being potentially, I think it's that changing the on, you know, what you can do in right. There's so just in the community and supporting each other, having check-ins like dates. You know, there's so many things to do to create community within our teams. And I have a comment here that says, thanks for answering. My takeaway is workplace will be a work and it's a great place to be. It's not about perfection. It's about, you know, we vet our join the Women in Biz and post, and you know what, the first of them, it's not about being perfect, it's not about shaming, it's about, you know, focusing on to improvement and continue to on that. So much here with me these weekly chats. Technically, they're not exactly, and they're in the cities. You know, it takes up a lot of bandwidth. I really fun that we're helping people, and you know, they're not perfect, but they're thanks to all of you. Jill, I hope over your jet lag soon.
Yes, thanks.
And Sarah, thanks for being here. And yeah, keep in touch with all of us. you connect with Jill Valentine, and if you have questions.
No problem. It's always my pleasure.
Yeah. Oh, good. So
yeah,
glad
this
to
is
hear that.
great conversation.
Yeah. Jill, do in the LinkedIn feed trip and
Absolutely.
and the program, because I think it would be going to create inclusive environments and teamwork and better understanding. And for those of you that might be interested in queen bees of recruiting, especially focused on women, helping women get back to work, we welcome any reason and would love to support your HR